Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3.
Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3.
And what's gonna be the main? This one right here. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. I'm Tom Kreager, high school sports editor at the Tennessean. Welcome to the Tennessean. It's week 5. After this will be mid-season. Midway home through the regular season. Big list of games this week. But first, let me introduce our guest for tonight, Gallatin first-year coach Chad Watson. Welcome to the Bootleg, Chad.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Tom. I appreciate it.
Well, you guys, first-year coach at Gallatin. Of course, you're at Northeast. You're an assistant at Clarksville Academy. I know you from way back when you're at Lancaster Christian. You've come a long way since those days. But you've got Gallatin 4-0 for the first time since 2011. Just talk to me a little bit about how you've maybe changed your culture, how you've changed things to be 4-0 right now, going into week 5?
The first thing was to focus on hiring really good coaches, and I think we've done that. Nathan Wilson, who's had a tremendous career at Macon County as a head coach, he's running our offense. And we brought in Chad Broderick from East Robertson, who was a head coach there. Him and Stephen Clemens, who came up from Smith County, are co-defensive coordinators. And we were lucky enough to get Josh Atkins up from McNeese State as a graduate assistant to do our special team. So it starts with our coaches. I think they do a really good job, but our kids work extremely hard, and Gallatin loves their football, so we have tremendous support from the city and the administration.
You talk about your assistant coaches, and to bring in former head coaches, it's got to help you because they know everything else. They know where you're going to be. Hey, you've got a booster club meeting tonight, or hey, I got a parent meeting tonight. They can pick up some slack. Say, hey, you need to take on some tasks that one they probably don't want to do anymore. Mm-hmm. But what does it mean to have guys like Nathan and Chad?
I can't speak enough of how much they do for me. I feel like the amount of stress level. I mean, coming to Gallatin, obviously you got some pressure to win, but those guys take on so many tasks, and I got complete trust in them, and I can't tell you enough how much they do for me.
You get those type of proven coaches. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. You can be more of a sit back and kind of direct things from afar rather than having to get right in the trenches with them and do a lot of the X's and O's.
Yeah, I told our kids today actually in a team meeting, like, my job as the head coach is to protect the culture of the program, and I'm fully trusting Chad and Stephen to do the defense and Nathan to do the offense and Josh to do the special team. So I'm in a good position with the coaches I'm around.
What's the secret to 4-0 start? Plus a big win last week over Mount Juliet 7-0.
Yeah, Mount Juliet's a really good football team. I think everybody knows how good of a job Trey Perry does with that program. The secret's just hard work and our kids staying consistent with what we're doing and trying to improve week in and week out.
Do you have them, I would think now the players are saying, hey, we're 4-0, we're playing really good football. They're really buying in now.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've had pretty good buy-in ever since, honestly, the Lebanon win. I feel like they kind of flipped a switch and realized, hey, maybe these guys know a little bit about what they're talking about. So we're in a good position. We're not going to get complacent, but we're going to continue to strive and make sure we're coaching our kids up day in and day out.
Looking at your schedule so far, you beat a Lebanon team that's a 6A team. You beat a Mount Juliet team that's a 6A team. You beat a Hillsboro region opponent, which is, you look at last year, Beach Gallatin and Hillsboro were tied. Mm-hmm. And then you look at Station Camp, and while they might be down, it's a rivalry game. It's for the Bishop's Cup. They won it last year.
Right.
It's not been an easy 4 games to start the season for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I would put our strength of schedule so far, what we've played in 5A, up there with anybody. If anything, our kids have become more confident. Like we told our guys against Mountain Juliet, this is a top game you're going to have to win to make a deep run into playoffs or win a region championship. So we're battle-tested. I really believe we are.
You find out a lot about your team when you can gut out a 7-0 win.
Yeah, for sure. And it was an old-fashioned fist fight. I mean, it was 48 minutes of those kids left the field being awful sore, and I know our guys were exhausted and Mountain Juliet's guys were, but it was a good high school defensive struggle.
Big, a guy who's probably been sore about every Friday night because he's running all over the place. Spencer Briggs should surpass. If he stays healthy and you guys get the running game, he should surpass 1,000 yards in this Friday night against Hillwood.
Yeah, we're hopeful. I think he's sitting at 911 yards on 100 carries. Spencer, best back I've ever coached. Great vision. really selfless kid. The first thing he wants to do is give credit to his offensive linemen, and they've done a good job creating seams for him. But he's a playmaker, and I'm glad to have him.
He's a guy that, if you get that little hole for him, he can get through and then watch out, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's got the best top end speed out of all backs in Tennessee. He's fast enough, but his ability to stick his foot and create separation, that and his vision are his two best assets for sure.
And that's not something you're going to teach.
No, for sure. He's got a lot of God given ability, and he uses it.
Outside of him, give me some offensive guys that you're leaning on, and then we'll talk defense.
Isaiah Briscoe, he's our senior quarterback. He really never got to play a whole lot as a junior, kind of stepped into the quarterback role. We had a competition this spring and over the summer, and he won it out. So he makes really good decisions. He's elusive with his feet as well. We talked Luke Springer into playing. He's a baseball kid, hadn't played since his freshman year, 6'3" receiver. I think he's got 3 or 4 touchdowns on the year. So those are 2 more playmakers we have offensively.
And then defense, to beat them out Julie at 7-0, played really strong defense, I believe, against Hillsboro. I think he shut out to Station Camp. Defensively, you're making plays, and I believe there's a Mason kid that's making huge plays for you.
Yeah, James Mason, close to 50 tackles, 7 sacks. We're giving up 5 points a game right now defensively, so we're really getting after it. James is definitely our captain on the defensive side of the ball. We got 2 seniors up front on the defensive ends, Trustin Kip and Abraham Branham have done really, really good for us. And guys in the secondary like Malachi McDowell and Solomon Yarborough and Tay State. And I could go on and on. I feel like James is our leader, but we got a lot of really good football players on the defensive side of the ball.
From what you saw on film a year ago to what you guys doing, how much did schematic-wise, did you change offensively? Did you change everything like night and day? Did you change total defensive scheme? What's different from a schematics?
Offensively, they were more of a pro style last year. We're more 20 personnel, spread you out to run the football. Defensively, they were really multiple now. We're still multiple, but we're more based out of a 4-2-5. I think we spent a whole lot more time on special teams than what they've done in the years past. So I don't know that it's our scheme's that much better. It's just we're paying a little more attention to detail than what they've had.
When this job comes open, and it's been a while since they've had some really deep runs, but it's Gallatin High School, it's the Green Wave, it's Calvin Short Field.
Yeah.
Is that easy? Is that a no-brainer? Say, hey, when that job opens, you got to apply for it.
Yeah, I told my wife, and that's a conversation me and her had. If Gallatin ever opened up, I was born and raised in Gordonsville, so that's pretty close to home for me. If Gallatin ever comes open, I'm gonna try for it. And I don't think there's a better football program in the state to be coaching at. The amount of support we have. Mountain Juliet was packed. I would say there was probably over 6,000 people there on Friday night. So you want to play in big games, you want to play in front of a lot of people, Gallatin's a place to do it at.
And if you're winning especially, those folks are going to come in groves to watch the Green Wave play.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something we want to do this week's pack the home crowd, the away, home and away. I don't know that Hillwood's going to travel great, so we're going to try to fill it up Friday night.
We talked a little bit off camera. We're looking at these helmets behind us, and it said, "Hey, Gallatin is one of those schools. It's kind of like, you're gonna have that helmet is never gonna change."
No, for sure. We're kind of like the Penn State. I guess Middle Tennessee.
I was just thinking Penn State.
Yeah, we're gonna have the G on the side of the helmet, and we're gonna have the triple stripes on the sleeves and the pants, and we're gonna stick to it with Gallatin on the back. Yeah. Take a lot of pride in that.
That's something that people have grown to expect and really respect, I think, out of the program.
Yeah, I think so. And our kids feel honored to have it on the back.
4-0, chance to go into the midseason point 5-0. What would that mean to this program right now to be going into the second half of the regular season at 5-0?
I think it's huge for our kids. It's huge for our community and the buy-in. And the biggest thing about being 5-0 would be Hillwood would be make us 2-0 in the region and setting ourselves up good shape for the playoffs. It's been 6 years since we won a playoff game, so that's a big deal.
So you've got last year Beach, Gallatin, and Hillsboro all tied in the region. You've already knocked off a Hillsboro team. You've got Beach later in the season. You got to think going in. I mean, we were talking. It's you guys are off to a great start. Beach is off to a great start. Henry County's a great team, even though they're 2-2, but I think they're full healthy now.
Yeah.
And then you've got down in Williamson, you've got Summit, and you've got Page, and you've got Shelbyville. If you can keep this going and are fortunate to get to the playoffs, it's a tough road in 5A.
It is. I think 5A is, especially Middle Tennessee, is maybe the most competitive division in all classifications, just because you have a really good football teams, and whoever shows up to play the best that night is going to be the one that wins. I don't feel like there's too many games you get in the west side of the state in the playoffs that you can just call it before you show up. So,
Do you think right now everyone is kind of getting the attention of the Green Wave, saying, "Hey, we're really it's time now." Everyone's supposed to maybe now studying what the Green Wave are doing and say, "Hey, this is a team that is good to make a playoff run." I know they're still for some reason they're not in the AP poll. I'll have to talk to some of the voters there. I've got them in my poll, but. You got to think that people around the state are starting to recognize what you guys have done.
and I think so. I see more and more information and stuff posted about us, and all that's great. And I know it's going to sound like coaches talk, but we tell our kids we're going to worry about what we can control, and we can control the 4 games we've played so far, and I'm happy with our effort.
Well, folks, that's Chad Watson with the Gallatin Green Wave, first-year coach there. He's going to stick around for our top games. He's going to give me some input. I gave our high school writers a night off just to help them get through a busy week ahead. Want to talk about one big performance this week. I was fortunate to be at the Ravenwood Pulaski Academy game. Ravenwood wins that game. Andrew Mason of Ravenwood, 8 catches, 356 yards, 7 touchdown receptions. The 7 touchdown receptions ties the state record. The 356 yards receiving missed the state record by 2 yards, and I had to go back and recalculate everything multiple times. I went back and asked the coaches. I said, "What do y'all have? Am I missing something?" And they had what I had, thinking maybe I missed 2 yards somewhere, but he just missed tying for 2 state records. Big performance. I think Pulaski had over 400 yards passing. Game started, of course, kickoff. It was a TV game, so 7:07 kickoff. Walked off the field after doing my interviews 11:10. One of the longest high school football games of all time I've ever been a part of. Coach, what's your thoughts on TV games? How do you prepare for a TV game, knowing it's going to go longer? You're going to have to know when the timeouts are coming.
You talk to your kids about it on Monday. Last year at Northeast, we had a TV game against Clarksville High, and that was my first experience with that. And I had some coaches on staff that had been through that. So you just try to – it kind of messes with the tempo of the game and the structure of the game, but you just try to make your kids aware of it as much as possible.
So we're going to talk about the top games of the week. Our game of the week, Ravenwood 4-0 at Brentwood 3-1. It's the Battle of the Woods. It's becoming, I think, one of the bigger rivalries in Middle Tennessee, just because these two programs are off over the last few years have been really, really talented teams. Ravenwood just really lit up the air. Tony Rice missed part of the game due to, I think he's been battling maybe a shoulder injury, but I think he's back this week. Brian Garcia, 928 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, just 1 interception for the year. Of course, 356 of that came to Andrew Mason last week, and 7 touchdowns as well. So obviously, those stats are a little bit bulked up from last week's huge passing performance. Brentwood, coming off a tough loss to Henry County. I like the Kate Granzel kid at quarterback. He's a baseball player, but he's a winner. He finds ways to win games. Coach, first I'm gonna pick the score, but what do you know about those two programs?
I know you're talking football coaches in Middle Tennessee. Ron Crawford doesn't get any better than what he's done at Brentwood, and from firsthand experience going to Henry County and playing there is no easy feat, no matter who you are. So I think they're going to bring their A game, and it's going to be a really, really good football game to go out and watch.
I think that Brentwood score last week was 21-14. Henry County won. I think Ravenwood finds a way to win, but I think it's a real close one. I think Ravenwood 27, Brentwood 24. Perhaps it's a Luke Akers, couple field goals there. I think it's going to be a great contest. I think Brentwood responds from their loss last week. Division II AAA game out of the East. Chattanooga Baylor at Ensworth. Both teams are 4-0. Probably both teams might be a surprise 4-0. I think Baylor is. Ensworth 4-0 under Rock Batten. they've had this is their 5th straight home game for Ainsworth. So the way it worked out, 5 straight home games, and then I think they're out the road at NBA, and I think they've got 6 or 7 home games in the regular season. But Rock Batten's done a great job. Of course, he's been our guest in the past. Ainsworth is averaging 45 points a game, and that offense is something this year because they're really doing it through the air. Gerard Bullock, the quarterback there, first year starting quarterback. Bullock is averaging 158.8 passing yards a game. I like what Rock has done offensively, really using all their weapons with Andre Turrentine and Keyshawn Lawrence, and they've got 2 or 3 or 4 backs. I mean, I really like offensively what this Ainsworth team has done. I think you've seen them on film. I mean, they're a dynamic team to watch offensively.
Yeah, I got the privilege to watch them. Their scout tape against Hillsboro. Offensively, they are extremely explosive. But honestly, the first thing that stood out to me when I watched film was their physicality on defense. Their kids fly to the football. They're really, really well coached. And like you said, Rock's doing a great job there.
I don't think they'll get to 45 points. I think they get to 42. Ainsworth 42, Baylor 21. A 5-0 start for Ainsworth is what I see coming. Wilson Central 4-0, 1-0 in the region in 4-6A. At Mount Juliet 1-2, 1-0 in their region play. Of course, they're coming off a 7-0 loss to Gallatin here, and Wilson Central they put together their best start in like 3 years. They're off to a great start, but they haven't beat Mount Juliet since like 2008. So I think you're looking at some trends are going to stop. Either they're going to keep this thing going, and after they're one of their best starts, or Mount Juliet's going to stop it. Xavier Ali, 305 rushing yards for the Wildcats. But Mount Juliet's defense played well. I mean, last week against you guys, to hold Spencer Briggs to 1 touchdown run, 180-some yards rushing for him. Their defense isn't shabby.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best defensive unit we've seen all year. They get after it. They play hard. They're really, really well coached, and that's going to be a good Wilson County rivalry.
Yeah, that's a big one. We've got another Wilson County game, I believe, later in the picks here. I'm going to Mount Juliet 28-14. I think Mount Juliet finds a way. They were going 10-0 the last couple regular seasons. They've really beefed up their schedule from when they were the last couple of years, and it's taken a toll on the Bears. And the record may not show it, but I think they are a team to watch out for the second half of the season. So 28-14 Mount Juliet over Wilson Central is where I'm picking. BGA at CPA. BGA's 4-0. CPA's 0-4. I don't think anyone envisioned this when you look at this. When you looked at the schedule, it's a rematch of last year's Division II AA game. It kind of lost its a little bit of lackluster with CPA's 0-4 start. But you got to remember, CPA lost so many starters last year to graduation. BGA, their quarterback, Nick Simptonfelder, 1,100 yards passing already, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception. CPA's got to find a way to get some pressure on them, and defensively, they've got to find a way to slow down Antonio Stevens and Garnett Hollis Jr. There's a lot of college talent on BGA's side this year. Stevens going to Purdue, Garnett Hollis going to Northwestern, Briston Bennett going to Charlotte, the quarterback Simptonfelder going to Bucknell, and let's be honest, Bucknell's getting a steal in what Simptonfelder can do. I think if you're a college coach still recruiting, you might want to take a look at him. But I think BGA wins this game 42-20. CPA, it's one of those teams. They're a team that's really had a tough schedule going in.
Yeah, we actually scrimmaged CPA in the preseason, and talking to Coach Martin and Coach Haywood, those guys are young and inexperienced, but I got a lot of faith in that coaching staff. I think it could be. I'm not sure what year it was. They had a kind of a slow regular season, and they turn it on come the playoffs, and I wouldn't be completely surprised if that didn't happen again.
I think that's what everyone's kind of foreseeing and hoping for, but this would be the time. Be a big upset if they can pick up a win here. I still see BGA and ECS as probably your best 2 teams in Division II AA. Pope John Paul II, 3-1 start at Christian Brothers, 2-2. The Pope John Paul goes down to see my good friend Thomas McDaniel. JP2 giving up 17.8 points a game. Defensively, they're getting it done. James Wright, 31 tackles, 3 for loss, 2 sacks. And they've only got 5 interceptions. Devin Darden's got 2 of them. Defensively they're doing well, and of course Antoine Roberts and Sawyer Watts and the quarterback there, and Rory White. They've got some offense. If they can slow Christian Brothers down, I think that could be a really great game. I think Pope John Paul wins a close one, 21-20. All right, next one. It's kind of probably in your wheelhouse too. Springfield 3-1, 1-0 in the region, in Region 5-4A. They're going at White House. They're 3-0. This is White House's region opener. First big game, I think, for Coach Hamilton, Ryan Hamilton. There, it's their first big test of the year. Springfield's won like the last 2 region titles there in 5-4A. If they can find a way to slow down Springfield, and they're not the Springfield of the last couple of years. They don't have a big fat cat Dayron Johnson receiver. They don't have the quarterback there, but they've got Cavantes Hudson at quarterback, who's done a pretty good job, and Ronan Blackburn's for White House, he's been their big running back.
Yeah, Springfield, Dustin Wilson does a fabulous job. I got to play with Drew Wilson, their DC, at Austin P. Me and him were teammates, and I actually got a nephew, Lane Jenkins, that plays at White House, so I'm kind of conflicted on that one.
All right, I think this could be a close one. I think Springfield 28, White House 21. I just think Springfield's got a couple more weapons, I think, than White House this year. This game, Franklin had Independence. Franklin's 1-3, 0-1 the region. Independence pulled off maybe the shocker in the state last week, beating Blackman. They're 3-1, 1-0. Of course, they're both in 6-6A. What was your reaction when you saw that score?
Yeah, I was really surprised, honestly. Kind of goes back to talking about the strength of 5A. When you look at Independence's 1 losses to a Summit team, so it did surprise me. I know Coach Hartsfield, and they do a good job. Just kind of blew me away.
Ethan Cash, 24 of 37 passing, 327 yards, 5 touchdowns last week. Chase Bishop, 11 catches, 210 yards, caught all 5 touchdowns. Franklin's going to have to find a way to do something about that pass game, especially to Bishop. If they can do that, they can slow it down. I think Independence still scores a lot of points, and that's the scary thing if you're a 6A team, because Blackman's trademark all season has been their defense. They held Ravenwood, I believe, under 20 points.
16, I believe.
Yeah. So to get blown out to 49 points to Indy. I mean, it's an eye opener, I think, for 6A, and really for 6A. It's an eye opener for everyone there. I think Independence wins this game 42-20. Last page. Good Pasture at Lipscomb. This is an interesting one, folks. 2-2 Good Pasture going to Lipscomb at 3-1. I thought Lipscomb had probably the biggest win over the last few years. It's really a signature win for this program under Coach Dilfer, beating Page last week. A really talented Page. I think I'll go on record. I picked Page to win this by a couple touchdowns. Thought that one really surprised me last week, and it goes to show how much they've come along since the first couple weeks of the season. They can run the ball with Jaden Lyles. I like him as a running back. 430 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns for the Lipscomb running back. Over the last since 2010, they've Lipscomb's got a 5-4 series advantage. It's been a close series. This is an old rivalry, a good Church of Christ school rivalry. But Lipscomb's averaging 40 points a game right now. I like what Lipscomb's doing. I think they're on the right course. I'm picking Lipscomb 35-14 over Good Pasture. Big game here. These guys pretty well. Lebanon 2-2 at Hendersonville 2-2. Lebanon's 0-1 in the region. Hendersonville's 1-0 in the region. You played Lebanon. I believe you got Hendersonville later.
Yeah.
This is a big game for this region.
Yeah, it's got a lot of region implications, and one thing you can tell from those two teams, it's going to be a really physical football game. It'll be a good one to go watch for sure.
You've seen Lebanon. What makes them? I mean, Chuck Gentry's done a great job with this team in the short time he's been there. What makes them so good?
Their buy-in. They're strong kids. You can look at them when they walk on the field. I know Coach Fry down there's done a really good job in the weight room, and he's their defensive coordinator. And Coach Gentry's had a lot of success over the years, being offensive coordinator at Cookeville and Smith County, and Justin Angel does a good job with the offensive line. They're a well-coached football team, really balanced, and they're winning games for a reason.
In Hendersonville, I mean, they've been up and down a little bit, but whoever wins this game, I think is one. They're still a contender for the region. I really like Mount Juliet in this region, so I think the winner of this could be your second place team when it's all said and done. But we'll wait and see how this pans out. Lebanon's coming off a 28-27 win over over Laverne, and I like Hendersonville to win a very tight win here. Hendersonville 27-21. This is a coin flip game if there ever was. And one final game, which I think is also a coin flip game, Mount Pleasant at Cornersville. I think this used to be called the Sundrop game, I think. Or at times it's been Sundrop Bowl or something like that. I think both teams are chasing Fayetteville right now. They're off to a 4-0 start after being like 1-9 a year ago. Cornersville's like dominated this league the last couple of years, right. And graduation decimated their program. They've got a lot of kids there, but a lot of those kids the last couple of years have graduated that made big impacts. I really like what Coach Bronson Bradley's doing there at Mount Pleasant. Keyshawn Hudson, a great receiver for them, 9 catches, 193 yards. Mount Pleasant 21, Cornersville 20. Just for the record, I was 8-2 last week. 31-9 for the season.
That's impressive.
And I think I'd have to go back and look. I think I'm undefeated picking your games.
You picked Lebanon.
Oh, did I pick Lebanon?
Yeah.
Well, no, you weren't.
It's all good.
You weren't supposed to notice that. I did pick Lebanon. Boy, what was I thinking? That's a bad one to pick. Thanks for joining us, even though I picked against you.
Oh, you're good.
So, Coach, how do you? I know we text back and forth a lot on a Friday night.
Right.
Before we wrap it up, how do you enjoy? What do you do on a Friday night after a game?
We come in as a coaching staff, and we watch the film together. Luckily, so far this year, we've all been in pretty good spirits after the game. Then usually we got a close-knit group as a coaching staff. We'll usually leave campus and go hang out at someone's house or something and kind of recap and get ready to break down film on Sunday.
Are you one of those guys that has to see the game film before you can go to bed on Friday night?
Yeah. It's constantly going to be replaying in my head. I want to get that over and done with. Saturday's kind of my family day, and I got 2 little boys under 3, so I want to make sure they got my attention on Saturday mornings.
Huddle sideline, do you guys have the huddle sideline?
Yeah, we do.
So how much are you looking at replays during the game? So maybe if it's not so much to say, well, I got to go back and see this play.
Right.
You've already seen it probably.
Right, yeah. Me and Coach Silcox, we do the offensive line together, so every time our defense is out on the field, we're looking at huddle sideline at that moment in time. But we still going to go back and watch the whole game afterwards.
Well, Coach, Chad Watson, Gallatin Greenway, 4-0. They host Hillwood. 7 o'clock.
It's homecoming, too.
It's homecoming.
Yep.
Even more reason to come to Gallatin High School. And actually, the game is not at the high school, right? Because you guys don't play at the high school.
No, we don't. It's at over by Central Office where the high school used to be located at.
Go see these guys play. Spencer Briggs is a great story to follow. This is what he's done. And of course, the team itself is a great story of what they've done this season. Trying to be 5-0. They're off to their first 4-0 start since 2011. Keep it up, Coach.
All right. Thanks for having me, Tom.
That wraps up this week's Bootleg. We'll see you next week when we start looking at mid-season report cards.